Here we are out of the apartment in Marrakesh into the great minaret of the mosque, which is called the Koutoubia. Koutoubia was at one time a bibliothèque, where a library, if you like, where the scribes used to study the scriptures, and it was built in about the 12th century. And today it's, well, a tourist attraction, but really it is a house of prayer, and where non-Muslims are not allowed to go in. And this is where it all happens in Marrakesh. This is the Place Jem Al Fna, which is a huge place in the middle of Marrakesh, in the Medina, which is the old town. And you can buy literally everything here, as you can see. And it starts to come alive at about 5 or 6 o'clock when these little restaurant stands open up. And then all around the place are restaurants that are open until really late into the night, and we were here until about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and there was people everywhere eating, walking around, looking. And then the next day we took a trip out to Jardin Majorelle. Majorelle was a French artist in the 19th century, and the gardens were taken over by Yves Saint Laurent, and there's a little statue celebrating Yves Saint Laurent's life in these gardens. And the gardens are full of tropical flowers from different continents all over the world. It's a bit dry, as you can see, lots of palms and those sorts of things, and no grass on the floor. It's just sort of like a desert floor for these cactus. Right out of the door, into a taxi, and going round into a little trip down one of the souks. I'll come back to that later. And they had hundreds of these doors to photo. And then down this alleyway was where our house was. And here we are, Celine in a kafta. And here's the kitchen, straight out of an IKEA box, or boxes. Super well equipped. Into the living room with hundreds and hundreds of television stations, which we didn't even look. And this living room became the girls' bedroom because it had air conditioning. Because at night it was a bit hot to sleep without air conditioning. Florian made it because he was sleeping upstairs in a room without it. And this is the courtyard, and the main door is out on the left there. And this little table down on the left was where we ate our breakfast and lunchtime sometimes. And up the stairs was up to the next rooms where Florian and we had our bedrooms and so on off onto the balcony. So here's Florian's room, and then private bathroom, all to him, 5-star luxury, and a bed well made every morning, as you can see, out onto a small balcony, down onto that table I was talking about, and then off to the end of the corridor to our bedroom, bathroom in there. So it was absolutely brilliant. It really was super. And then down this passageway out into the town. So here we are, little 2-minute trip by foot down this alleyway. fact, Marrakesh, the old part of Marrakesh, is a fortified town, as you can see here, with lots of doors that lead into the town. And this is, again, this big Place Jemaa Al Fna, where we spent a lot of time, and you can see the minaret of one of the mosques, which are hundreds of them all over the place. And behind these mosques, once you get beyond this place, you get into the souks, where everything's sold, but everything's in the same sort of thing as one area for spices, one area for leather, one area for... I don't know how they can actually make a living, because they all sell the same things. Then a long walk through all these souks until we got to the tanners section, where all the leather stuff is made, all made by hand in the ancient tradition. And then through this area, which is the poorest part of Marrakesh, back through to the souks to come home again, by all these sort of doorways and little alleyways. You had to be pretty well aware of which direction you were going in, or else you got pretty well lost. As you can see, there's a whole load of people as well. It's not only tourists, but everybody was there.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Well, 5 times a day, that's what you hear, all the way through Marrakesh. And in the restaurants, between call to prayer and the end of prayer, all the music stops. Life goes on, people just get on with life, but there's a sort of either respect or fear, I don't know which, means that you don't actually eat with the music on all the time. And at the end of the prayer, they start to shout, sing again. Must be a different sort of song, but we couldn't really hear what we're saying. But as you can see, nobody takes much notice of what's going on inside the mosques. But there were hundreds of people that lined up to go inside, that must be said.
أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة.
In Marrakesh there are literally dozens of palaces. And this is Al Badi, which is about the biggest, which is a huge place. Only a tiny bit is open to the public, which we visited. Cost next to nothing. And as you can see, all the marble on the floor came from Italy. And the story goes that the marble was bought 1 kilo of marble for 1 kilo of sugar. It's a long time ago they finished eating the sugar, I can tell you.
وناس ازرو كريم عبد الرحيم هذا يقلب الجميل وعبد السلام وناس الخميسات في خاطر الناس الجزائر وناس الهرم في خاطر بوسي حسين الله يرحم خونا حسني هيا خويا كمال ديماري كاين حايني في خاطر الناس وجده.
Here we are at one of these gates coming into the centre of Marrakesh, This is Bab, which means gate, and Rob, which was the gateway at which all wines and spirits came from the south of Morocco into Marrakesh. Well, it no longer happens today. We were talking about the Middle Ages, but today there's a whole load of taxis that come through that show. I'm not sure whose idea it was, but there we are. We took the bus from Marrakesh to Essaouira. 3 hours without any air conditioning. We were about the only non-Moroccans on the bus. But we eventually got there, and more or less on time, and went right through a whole scenery, virtually desert between the two places. And coming back, we took a taxi, which was a bit more comfortable, but less adventurous really. Well, here we are in Essaouira. We came down about 15 degrees from about 48 to just under 30, and lots more wind, as you can see and hear from the video recording, but and a lot less people. Although it is a tourist place, we didn't see that many tourists, not as many in Marrakesh anyway. But it's right on the Atlantic Ocean. As you can see, Essaouira gets its living from the fishing industry, which is still very important today, and the whole port is given over to catching and buying and preparing the fish. They don't go out that far because the boats are pretty small, but the whole town is an old fort. It goes back to the 15th century, and at one time it was a Portuguese colony called Morocco, and this is our apartment, which is right above the restaurants, and so late until the night we had a bit of animation on that below us, and that didn't stop the children from sleeping and getting the rest in, so we'd go to the beach the next day. It was a pretty fine end of holiday week. And then we decided to go out on the hippie trail, because in this little village, one time in 1969, Cat Stevens and Jimi Hendrix and a load of others all met up, and this is Jimmy's bar where we had our lunch, and then we walked back to Essaouira, about an hour or so along the coast there, in order to, what we promised to the children anyway, to ride on the camels.
Salut.
جربنا حنايا جهلة دمعة عياني ربي كي كنتو كيراني أنا لو حين نظرك فيما ذاق القلب ترجماني يعاني من غورق مسيساني لا باش نطيق ليك نجيك يا الوحش الهاني صابر للكيت اللي يعطي شعلولي راني
بخرجت كل زين بيا خلتني وحداني هالربية راسي مسود وشاب اخويا الريدة خلاني يا بويا كيراني يلو حدي راب ساسو بنياني نيران شالت الهب الزين رباني
Fortifications were really impressive, and the children just loved running around because there were a whole lot of little nooks and crannies to hide in, and a whole load of cannons all lined up to sort of climb over and be on. And nobody here to tell you not to do it or not to climb out, or no security barriers. It's really left to ourselves, and it's absolutely brilliant. And the old forts and so on, which were very, very impressive indeed.
دموع عينها تحيب ندامة مدمانة ونجوم عينها طافية دبلانة ندمانة
After meeting this Tuareg guide and buying a few bits and pieces of jewellery and the children polishing up his jewellery bits for him, spent an hour in his shop talking about things. We obviously went out to the restaurant, and normally we went at least once, if not twice a day in the restaurant, but at about £2.50 for the 5 of us to eat. Couldn't be bothered to make meals in the apartment, so we just ate out, couscous, tagines and everything, salads and goodness knows what else.
لا خوافي ولا صدق معاني زمان هذا غريب وبراني لا خوافي ولا صدق معاني ولا في حال ولا من هم وحالي ندمانة البسمة الصافية